So today the plan is to talk about potential ORDAO Fractal. Um, the motivation for this I basically expressed before the meeting, and yeah, so one of the uh, one of our goals is to have a place to test new versions of ORDAO software, uh, maybe guide development of ORDAO. For me, it's also lately been relevant to have a place to bounce back ideas, new ideas, maybe before sharing or proposing them in bigger fractals. And yeah, I also envision a mechanism to have more flexibility regarding how meetings are scheduled. For example, where participants of a fractal or DAO fractal in this case could, if they are interested, if they have something to discuss, some topic to propose, or and so on, they could be the ones that propose meeting time or coordinate meeting time. So instead of having fixed schedule and then voting on topics, uh, to discuss during the meeting, the way we have been doing in other fractals so far. Instead of that, we could put topics and topics first and then schedule meetings. I think that makes sense. Even though I see arguments for having fixed meeting schedule. I think it's good for for marketing maybe, and uh, for mechanisms of inviting people through Luma and so on, easier to coordinate. But I think when it comes to meetings where we want to like really work on stuff, it makes sense to adapt their schedule to people who are most interested in them. Uh, I will be honest. Like one of the motivations is that for me, uh, current meeting times for Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal are a bit too late. Uh, and I started thinking that fractals should not change their schedule just for a single person, and I started thinking more generally, and this is the idea I came up with, that fractals should, not all fractals maybe, I'm not sure about that, but it makes sense to have a mechanism for scheduling meetings based on topics first. Yeah, and again, besides that, we also have other motivations like a place to test our DAO and discuss new ideas. Yeah, so this is an overview of motivations for our DAO fractal, I guess. I could maybe come up with more points, but yeah, I'm also interested what maybe you have some thoughts about what I already said.
Yeah, I have some thoughts, Tadas, so thanks for organizing. Good to be back at the ORDAO office hours, and I like the idea of the ORDAO fractal quite a lot. It sounds very, very interesting, and so I have a lot of thoughts about that. But I suppose one thing I can share first is if you've thought about, and maybe you want to save this for later in the discussion, but regarding this kind of more flexible schedule, have you thought about how to determine when to meet and how to determine what to discuss? Like, some thoughts that came to mind is that we could potentially use the ORDAO respect tokens to vote on that kind of thing. Like, maybe there's like a threshold on if it gets, I don't know, 500 votes or whatever it may be, then that like then that determines to start a meeting and to schedule it at a certain date or something like that. And then that's also a way that you can decide a topic too, which would be an interesting way for both ORDAO Fractal, and also I could see it working for other communities and other fractals too, to have that more flexible meeting schedule. So Yeah, curious if you want to jump into that now about how you actually envision that topic selection. I mean, so far it's been you basically deciding, and I'm okay with that as well. But if it's going to be a fractal, it's going to be like a much larger thing that's going to have this decentralized governance process at some point, and it'd be interesting to think about that.
Yes, that's what I've been thinking a lot over the past couple of days as I've been preparing for this meeting, and like any democratic mechanism to schedule meetings, it's I haven't been able to like really come up with something that wouldn't be very complex. Well, maybe it could be made, but still, I don't want to start with that amount of complexity. And so, what I've been thinking right now is that, yeah, so we can already go into the intent document for potential ORDAO fractal that I've been preparing.
Nice. That's what I was waiting for.
Yes. And so, yeah, this is very short. So basically, the first of all, you have a kind of a mission statement, what ORDAO Fractal is about.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a first draft, by the way, but yeah, I think it's good enough to start. The first section is about respect token. We have a similar kind of section in optimism fractal intent document, and then this section is just for distinguishing parent respect from ORDAO respect, the new ORDAO respect. So parent respect will be the token that is created through ORDAO office hours. Yeah, so you see its distribution here. Maybe I will open it in another tab. Yeah, and new ORDAO respect is yet to be deployed. I will deploy it. And now, when it comes to consensus process, first of all, I won't make. There will only be. I propose that in the beginning there is only consensus process. There is no executive process, and that consensus process is deployment of ORDAO with the following configuration. And I say that consensus process can distribute ORDAO respect, which implies it's up to consensus process to decide how to do it, and consensus process can change how ORDAO fractal works by emitting a signal event. Yeah, so OREC can emit, through OREC you can pass a proposal to emit a blockchain event with custom number and custom data. So the idea is that to change any of the rules here, you would emit an event, or we would have to pass a proposal through ORAC to emit an event which links to a new document like this. So this is for updates of this document. And yeah, now coming back to your original question, this does not have any rules about meeting times or anything. So anyone can schedule ORDAO fractal meeting. It's up to OREC, consensus process, to judge basically if we want to avoid any respect to that. Of course, if that meeting holds a respect game, we will probably submit a proposal to distribute respect, but we can reject it basically. And if you look at the current distribution for which will make these decisions, you see it here. So we know all of these people, and I fully trust that there will be no issues like. So basically, this means that only these people can initiate meetings that can initiate proposals with any kind of weight behind them, voting weight. So yeah, in reality, I don't think anyone else will will organize meetings besides me in the short term. So I think this is good enough, and this avoids all kinds of complexity while keeping it flexible. And it's still like democratic. I'm not claiming control over meetings here. So I think, I don't know, I think this is good enough. What do you think?
Sounds good. Yeah, I think that sounds like a good way to start. I'm curious if Rosemary has any thoughts. I'm curious too. What you have a link to Signal event, and then you have Signal one. So I'm curious what that links to. Is that like some sort of event that happens on EVM in general, or is that specific to OREC? And then what does the one signify?
Yeah. So this signal event is basically, maybe I should specify that it's a signal type, event type, basically. So in Ethereum EVM, contracts can define event types and then later issue those events. Yeah, like here. So here is a place where this signal is issued. So basically, that's what this means is I link to signal type in the code, and signal type is not defined by the code, so it's up to Fractal community to define the signal types and how we interpret them. It's just a number. So currently, only zero signal number is defined, and it's for tick, for incrementing meeting number. And right here I claimed that we use one for signaling change to this document. Yeah, so to clarify, these signals are in Ethereum, in general, maybe events in Ethereum are ways for contracts to signal something to off-chain world, basically. That something in the contract happened. And the way I use signal events here is I use it for as a way for consensus, for ORAC to signal that some proposal was passed. Like in the past we talked about how fractal consensus processes can be used for community to signal an opinion. So this is the same kind of concept. It's a consensus. It's a way for consensus process to signal something to the outside world, basically. And it's basically, I'm saying that for ORDAO Fractal, we have an agreement that to change this document, we have to reach consensus and pass proposal to signal this event.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Did you say that Signal Zero was also something too? Was that regarding the distribution of the respect or the event organization like that, or did I mishear that?
Not sure I understand the question, but what signal events are not used for scheduling or distributing respect. It's just for right now. We're just for changing this document.
Okay, I think you said there's something about Signal Zero there as well. Is there any situation in which you'd have like
right.
Signal Zero, Signal Two, or Signal Three, or anything like that?
Yeah. So signal zero is so-called tick signal, which I use for the incrementing meeting number.
Mm-hmm.
So our node counts meeting number, and it increments that meeting number when signal zero is issued.
Mm-hmm.
And here I define signal one, and no other signal is currently defined. not useful.
But that could be defined if there's something else we wanted to make some sort of off-chain signal for. Then we can call that signal 2, and then we would basically emit that signal whenever we want to do that other thing, and emit signal 1 when we want to update or change the intent document.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, cool.
I see a lot of use cases for this, but maybe not sure if it's worth getting into that.
What kind of proposals are you envisioning to potentially pass using the ORDAO Fractal? And also, are you looking for like more developers to join these in the future, to have more of like a developer perspective and feedback? Or it can be also, I mean, it is probably open to anyone. But do you have like a specific focus group that you'd like to cater these events towards? And how frequently do you think they will be happening? Or it depends on the, I suppose, adoption or the kind of movement with ORDAO Fractal?
It's
But
good.
But do you have like a somewhat like a vision on how often it'll be good to have them going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. So, good questions. So, first question regarding what proposal am I considering to pass is one is regarding funding, a method to distribute funding that I've been considering, and yeah, so that's one thing. And the reason I think it makes sense to discuss in ORDAO Fractal is one, because it might makes more sense to apply that idea to ORDAO Fractal first. In general, that's another motivation to clarify motivation for ORDAO Fractal even further. Some of the ideas that I have for fractals, it would be hard to pass in optimism fractal maybe, or Eden fractal, and to have the smaller, leaner fractal which can experiment faster, I think that can be very useful. So next, I'm considering consensus process for Eden fractal. And the way I think Eden fractal could eventually pass proposals is by small other fractals proposing and then voting. So, but this goes towards Eden fractal becoming more of a higher order fractal. Although, but I think even if it does not choose to go that way, I think it makes sense to discuss that maybe in smaller setting like this before proposing in Eden fractal. Yeah, and then, like you said, in the future it could be useful for any developers that help develop ORDAO Fractal. Right now I'm not as focused on looking for new developers. I think let's solve funding first, at least a bit more. And regarding your more general question regarding who would, for whom these meetings would be oriented towards, so that's one of the things I've been thinking about, that a fractal, any kind of fractal, I think needs all kinds of people: developers, marketers, community organizers and hosts, people who focus on governance mechanisms, all kinds of people, and at the same time, I think like one area where we can optimize a lot is like it makes sense for developer meeting to be separate. For example, sometimes when other meetings. So that's what I've been thinking about, how to have the flexibility where people could organize meetings for subgroups, kind of teams within a fractal. Hence, my reluctance to set a fixed meeting schedule for ORDAO Fractal, and motivation to try to experiment with something like this where people could schedule more meetings. Does that answer all questions? Or
Yes, and do you have any idea on the frequency of these meetings? How often do you think having them would make their usefulness most effective? In a way, how can we most benefit from having these meetings? Is there a frequency of those meetings that would be good to consider, or as you said, they'll just be happening on like an ad hoc basis whenever someone has a topic they'd like to discuss? And also another thing, apart from having a topic for which then we'll have the event happening, um, I suppose we'll get to the details of how we can propose that topic and where, but um, shall we expect during that meeting for the group to have reach a kind of a consensus by the end of that meeting session, and then push that kind of signaling to change or DAO depending on what the session was about based on the proposal? That's kind of a whole separate question there.
yeah, so regarding the first question, I just thought, just don't forget the first question. Don't forget the first question.
It's about the
Like,
frequency, like they
yes,
have.
yes,
Yeah.
frequency. So generally, I think, like I said, like I want to enable flexibility to schedule them on ad hoc basis. But in the beginning, right now, I think weekly meetings would make sense. Rosemary said, "I'm becoming Jordan Peterson with these long questions." Yes, good job. Yeah, so yeah, so I'm not committing to weekly schedule, but yeah, right now I'm thinking that maybe weekly schedule would make sense, and that would be aligned with my idea that ORDAO Fractal would be more agile, more able to change faster than Optimism Fractal and Needle Fractal. So for that, more frequent meetings would be useful. Yeah, so, and the second question, yeah, what was the second question?
If someone proposes a topic for which they would like to have the meeting for the ORDAO fractal and that to be the topic of discussion, is it expected to have the group to reach consensus by the end of that meeting and to push a proposal to change the ORDAO contract?
Yeah, so I'm thinking that not just the schedule, but also the meeting structure should be flexible. and that will also enable us to experiment with meeting structure. If you ask me what kind of meetings I envision, I'm planning to organize, I would say in the beginning it would be meetings focused on discussions and maybe respect game at the end, where we either consider who contributed the most to the discussion, or we consider who contributed the most to over the past week, plus this, including this discussion. But I also think that for certain kinds of questions, it would make sense to pass proposals. Like if we want to change this document, then yeah, at the end, it would be desirable to create a proposal to emit a signal that changes this document. I'm also, as I've been thinking about Eden Fractal as a higher order fractal, or it could be some other, maybe not Eden, I'm not sure how it will develop. Maybe we create a separate higher order fractal, and Eden Fractal is just a normal fractal, whatever. But anyway, if one of the ways I've been thinking that these smaller fractals could interact with higher order fractals is that people pass proposals to emit signals for higher order fractals, and that signal could be a proposal for higher order fractals to consider. So that would be work like we first work on a proposal for Eden Fractal here, and then once it's more ready, we discuss it and pass it in Eden Fractal or something like that. It's very rough idea so far. It needs more development, and I'm not sure if it's the right one, but just some things I've been considering about what we could do in this meeting.
Okay. And does Eden Fractal then has to have their consensus mechanism established by the time that the proposals from ORDAO Fractal go in? If we agree in that vision that Eden Fractal is a higher order fractal.
Yeah, sure. It should it would make sense for Eden Fractal to define like how other fractals should make proposals for it.
But also once they get the proposals, to think how can they act on them. I think Eden Fractal should also have like an established consensus mechanism, so that it treats all the proposals from the rest of the fractals.
Yes, right. I'm thinking that consensus process could be like. Anyway, you're right. It would have to have a whole package with consensus process as well as executive process to implement past proposal. So right now, I think Eden Fractal is behind Optimism Fractal and so on, and we need to work on that because I think I have ideas for Eden Fractal, and I feel like it would be much easier to have productive discussions about that if Eden Fractal has a consensus process, because otherwise we won't have basically we're back to remember in Eden Fractal how we passed Eden plus Fractal. So we're back to that.
Yeah, 2 years later, and we once again don't have a consensus process yet. Although now there's less pressure, though. People were like freaking out about it at the time. I feel like it was like people didn't know what to do, and it was a whole bunch of people who were disorganized. At least now we have good consensus process that we can choose from, and there's less pressure. But yeah, happy to both discuss the consensus process for Eden Fractal and how it can interact with the consensus process for ORDAO Fractal and other fractals. Either schedule it at a Eden Fractal event, we could do the next one, or do that at ORDAO Fractal meetings, or however we think is best.
Yeah, but I think regarding Eden Fractal, I think it's a nice. It's not like we achieved a lot, and I think it's a nice cycle. So basically, we can now have an opportunity to renew Eden Fractal. Yeah. Regarding what to discuss, Dan, do you have any other thoughts regarding ORDAO Fractal, what I've been talking about?
Yeah, I have I have a few questions I could ask if it's helpful, but if you want to continue with this stuff, I could save those questions for after as well.
No, I think let's consider questions first.
Okay, so, well, one is specific about ORDAO Fractal, and then two are picking up on things that you said before. So, and I don't know if maybe we want to save those other things for later. Maybe I'll just mention them three briefly, and then we can pick whichever one we wanted to focus on, or we can focus on all of them. So one is, how could you mentioned one of the things that you'd want to prove a proposal for or test the ORDAO Fractal consensus process with and use is with regards to fund distribution of some sort. So curious if you wanted to share any more details about that. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it, or whatever ideas you have. You also brought up that you have other ideas for ways that signals could be used, the event signals. I'd be curious if you wanted to share any more of that. I'm just curious how else it could be used. And then the other one I had was kind of a fun one about like the long-term vision of ORDAO Fractal and where you envision it being in a year or 5 years or 100 years. Or some different timelines. Just throwing out some numbers there. I don't know if it'll be around 100 years. Maybe it will be. Who knows?
You know,
it just started. I want the long term now. Just kidding. What are you saying?
Yeah, you already know what I think about long term thinking, but I
Okay,
can
yeah.
provide some context for that to illustrate why my perspective regarding long term planning in Fractal.
Okay.
Why I came up with that.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. I was partially joking with 100 years. All I had written was what is the vision of ORDAO Fractal. But I would be curious if you have some thoughts about generally maybe 6 months or 3 months or whatever. But go ahead. However you're going to answer it. Curious to hear what you think.
So let's recap my story in Fractal. Albedo. I was very ambitious, very long term thinking. Like, came up with Albedo white paper, and then that actual idea did not go anywhere for all kinds of reasons, whatever. But then there was Fractalgram. That was first successful product or project that I actually that it became actually used. Not just an idea, but that became used by Fractal community member. Then Firmament was very ambitious, long term, did not go anywhere. I have to stop because I got stuck. Then the way ORDAO started, I was thinking, let's just create an application for next couple of seasons of Optimism Fractal, because I did not see the long-term picture. I just wanted to get some progress done so that we start the iterative process. And yeah, so I even communicate ORDAO as a code name basically because I saw it as temporary. But now I'm starting to see that it's picking up and it can become real something long-term. But again, if I start thinking really long-term, you know what's going to happen. So it seems like just thinking, focusing on my next most important thing, it's more productive right now for me.
Okay, so because you're focusing on the next long-term thing, in 100 years, ORDAO Fractal is gonna be super successful, and everybody's gonna love it. People are gonna wear ORDAO Fractal hats all over it. I got it. No, that don't make sense.
Yes, I don't see it, but it's going to be great. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, it actually reminded me too. Happy to hear any other thoughts you have about it, but that took me down a trip down memory lane. I actually was looking at your Peaked blog, and I opened up the albedo white paper, and maybe it's off topic here now because we're talking about ORDAO, but do you think albedo and firmament will ever be revived? Is there still valuable? Is there still value in reviewing those or coming back to them at some point, or maybe just off topic, wanted to focus on ORDAO Fractal, but curious because I remember there was a lot of good stuff in both of those ideas.
I have some stuff to say about firmament, but let's keep it for another time because it's a rabbit hole.
Okay, maybe we can schedule an ORDAO Fractal meeting and merge some of the ideas about firmament with ORDAO Fractal at some point or something, if it's useful.
Yeah, and same for your question about funding system that I'm considering. I want to write it down first because I will then be able to explain it better, and maybe I will figure out some flaws in it. So I think maybe we could discuss it in the next meeting, next week. Yeah. And it's also has some large game theory kind of implications that it will take time to digest, I think, for him. So.
Okay, I'm very excited to hear about that and dig into it. How about just out of curiosity, albedo? You mentioned firmament. You have a thing that you could dive into at some point. Albedo, will it ever make some sort of return? I know albedo was kind of connected with firmament too. Is it just a project you totally gave up on, or totally not good to focus on now, or is it still something to explore there again in the future?
I kind of forgot like what was about. No, but regarding the specific during when I was developing firmament, I said that albedo is like larger research initiative. So maybe as that it will come back, but not in the specific form that I was proposing in albedo white paper. Probably not in that form.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was different. In albedo, you argued that a staking smart contract that rewards staker, which selects the best performing contributors in fractally consensus process, but who has vote and underlying on-chain governance the same way that fractal selected contributor votes can be used to influence on-chain governance and improve the quality of the whole chain. So I think Firmament, I'm probably getting totally distracted here, but albedo was more about merging kind of with proof of stake chains or DPoS chains in some way, whereas Firmament was more so about using Git and other technologies to enable like decentralized website hosting and other sorts of consensus too. So of course you know better than me now telling you what albedo and Firmament is, but
thanks for reminding me that.
You're welcome.
No, really, I sometimes you forget even. Like, you look at the code you wrote and you say, who wrote this?
Yeah, well, there's a pretty detailed white paper you might want to check about albedo one day, and I think this is before the days of AI too. So it looks like you spent a lot of time writing all these thoughts and thinking about getting diagrams. So you might want to review it at some point for some inspiration.
I have a question. Tadas, so in the topic of funding, and as we're talking about previous project, albedo and firmament, I was thinking whether you have thought about going for funding for ORDAO or any project kind of separate project that you're building. For example, the Albedo or Firmament, like kind of the what sort of strategy have you had, or and has that changed over the years of kind of funding for projects that you're building?
Yeah, it did change. I think Albedo even included strategy, a long-term vision for how fractals would be funded. In the beginning, I was very focused on it, very focused on coming up with mechanisms to reliably fund fractals. Then with Firmament, I kind of went into solving other issues first. And meanwhile, I had a Pomelo application where I did get a little bit of funding for working on Firmament and Albedo. And right over the last year or so, I've been prioritizing ORDAO, other parts besides funding. Yeah, and right now, the idea regarding funding that I have right now will be more focused on how to distribute funding to fractal participants in a decentralized and trustless manner, and less about applying. But the source of income will still, at least in the beginning, will have to be, main source of income will probably be grant applications. So we will still need that, and we will still probably need ways for applying to that. So it will have, those two parts will have to work together. But maybe it will be clearer once I explain that idea further, which I don't want to start going into now.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, and I suppose we can also, I don't know if you wanted to share any thoughts about the other ways that the event signals can be used to dots. We're also near the top of the hour, so I don't know if you have anything else you want to share, or if you want to play a respect game or something like that. We could do that as well.
I don't have anything else to share. Was there another question by you, Dan, regarding event?
I was just curious. Before you said that you had other ideas, I think you said it could be like very flexible and helpful in different ways. How we could have the event signal not just 0 and 1, but for 2 and 3 and 4, maybe, and 5 and stuff like that, and different purposes it could be used for. I think you said we could save for later, so happy to save for later. But if there's anything off the top of your head that you have like about how it could be used, I was just curious if you wanted to add any other thing, that like any previews or teasers about how the event signals could be used. But could also save for another time if you prefer.
Yeah, so one thing you could, one is for passing proposal to change intent document for ORDAO Fractal. Two could be used, for example, if there is higher order fractal. Two could be used for making a signal to higher order fractal. So, for example, if we have ORDAO Fractal, make proposals for higher order fractals. So we could have a signal for that. You could have a consensus process across different chains where signals from multiple fractals, even if we are not on the same chain, if we're, for example, four fractals across different chains, and if we all make the same signal, we could say that some proposal is passed. It's about coordination, defining consensus process to help fractals coordinate. Just some of the ideas. But I think I even had even more, but don't remember them right now.
Okay, cool. Thank you for clarifying, and looking forward to exploring those further, maybe trying them out, and hearing more ideas and discussing them more in the future.
Yeah, and maybe let's play. So first of all, what do you think? Should I move forward for ORDAO Fractal?
Yeah, I think ORDAO Fractal is a great idea.
Oh,
I think it's better. So will the next ORDAO office hours meeting be called ORDAO Fractal instead? So is ORDAO office hours? Is this the last ORDAO office hours technically?
it could be. I'm not sure. I think next week I will probably want to have meeting like this again. Like to have ORDAO, to start ORDAO Fractal, I will still need to deploy it. I'm not sure if I will be able to do it. Yes, so not sure if it's the last ORDAO office hours meeting, but yeah. If not, then we will have another ORDAO office hours maybe.
Okay, sounds good. I suppose you could still use the ORDAO office hours name and still have the ORDAO Fractal if it would be helpful. Might be confusing that way, but sounds good though. Looking forward to ORDAO office hours next week if you schedule it then, as well as ORDAO Fractal for the next 100, maybe 1,000 years. We'll see where it goes.
Okay, I just created Fractalgram.
Okay, is this in Telegram or the Fractalgram app?
I just created it in Fractalgram. In old Fractalgram. Although we could use the new, but it won't generate the submission link.
Okay.
And I also have a suggestion that we break our rules a bit and include Abraham in ranking. And the prompt could be who did the most over since the last meeting, I guess, including this discussion. Because yeah, like I said, I think it makes sense to have bigger distribution and to make the distribution bigger to make it more secure. And I think Abraham deserves more respect. I can't talk about what he did over since the last meeting. He improved his app a lot more, integrated meeting numbers, which he gets for more DAO API, group numbers. So he improved and made his app a lot more robust, which I think makes our DAO stronger too. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm happy with including Abraham in the respect game. Could you repeat those things he did briefly?
Yeah, so I probably won't know and remember everything, but yeah, so he made his app a lot more robust, fixed bugs, and then related to our DAO, he integrated meeting number. So right now, when you submit proposals, you submit results, you submit a proposal for specific meeting number, which issues respect with the right meeting number, and he gets that meeting number from ORDAO API. So that's more integration with ORDAO. And then he added a group number field. So group number is correct right now. Yeah, in general, we improved his app, which I think makes ORDAO stronger because it's a good front.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks for proxying for Abraham, and thanks Abraham. Big shout out to Abraham. I just entered my account on Optimism as a response to this message, so we're just waiting for you, Rosemary. And also, should we get Abraham's account here, or? And I don't know how that would work with the Telegram, where the Telegram app, as far as how we'd vote for Abraham there.
I think I will fill in his address manually.
Okay.
Later, so right now I will I just will add in the poll his name.
Okay, cool. And what's the prompt here that we're voting for? Basically, who did the most to help ORDAO, both in this meeting and over the past, I guess, like month or something since we had the last office hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Rosemary, could you reply with your address? Sorry, we're back to the old tech. But it's still working. I'm surprised that it did not update it for a while.
Yeah, time tested.
Good, now we have backup.
Maybe next thing that's coming is Fractogram Fractal. Waiting for your rote, Vos Marie.
Well,
Cool. I just recognized your name like that. Okay, Tadas got level 6.
Wow. I'm very surprised. Recording has stopped. It's over.
Recording is on.
Okay, I started the recording again.
Okay, Abraham.
Okay, Abraham got level 5.
Yeah, I saw then that you improved the ORDAO article, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made it
So
quite a bit better.
yeah, I saw it's good. So thanks for that.
Okay, you're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you. Also, I'll note these videos are particularly difficult to edit because I have to like convert them from Jitsi format and stuff like that. So it took me like a couple hours one time to figure out how to do it, and I have to like still mess around with it. It's not a big deal, but just a thing that Jitsi has.
Is it like? But once you figure out how to do it, does it still take a lot of time?
Yeah, it takes a lot longer than normal because like at first I had to figure out how to do it, but I still have to like transcode the file using a different app to the right format, and then because we always have issues where like we often have issues where one recording stops recording, and then we have to do another, and then I have to like stitch them together. So it was worse the first time, but then after that, it just takes maybe like 15 minutes extra or something like that to go through the extra steps. 10 minutes extra, so it's not that bad.
We could consider moving to Zoom. Although there are reasons why I like Jitsi, but
Okay, well, it's up to you. I'm happy to take care of it. I know how to do it now, so it's not that bad. If you want to do Zoom, we could use my Zoom room, and makes it a little bit easier. But I know there's reasons for Jitsi, and Jitsi has some benefits. So happy to stick with Jitsi if you prefer.
okay, right now
Okay.
I'm trying to edit the results so that Abraham is included.
Okay. I'll also note I voted for Rosemary for level 4, and I appreciate all of Rosemary's questions today and her interest and support for ORDAO in both these events, as well as she's been doing a great job marketing all the Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal events, which help bring attention to ORDAO. So that's a very valuable contribution to ORDAO to consider for future ORDAO office hours and Fractal meetings.
Yes, I agree.
And she produces most of the videos too. I don't. Oh.
Recording has stopped.
Ooh.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And Rosemary does a lot more work. People don't know it, but the editing the Zoom videos is in some ways worse than the editing of the videos I do in Jitsi, because she has to like resize it and stuff like that. That takes a lot more time overall than what I was working on. But pretty soon ORDAO is going to fix all these issues.
Are you going to submit them, the results?
Yes, I just having some issues with editing the results.
No! Factograph broke!
Okay, we'll fill in manual. If you want, you're free to go. If you want, I can share the results in the chat and you can submit later.
Okay, how long do you think it'll take?
A couple of minutes right now.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just hang out here and take care of some of the stuff while you're doing that. Just read through the Albedo white paper. Check out. There's also a lot of videos about Albedo too. You might want to listen to. We had some interviews with Patrick and all the fractally brainstorming sessions. It would be interesting to go back and see those again.
Okay, so here it's the link. So me, Abraham, Dan, Rosemary. That's the order. Can double check that. So please submit the results. I should share the link in the chat. Telegram chat.
Okay. Stacking that ORDAO respect. Okay, I have just submitted my transaction on chain.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Perhaps we should wrap up the recording, or anything else we should discuss first?
Yes, we can wrap up. My recording already stopped. Yeah, that's an issue with Jitsi, that it stops after an hour.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Okay, well, thanks Tadas for the great office hours and all the great ideas and stuff like that. Looking for the next one. And I guess I'll stop it now. So thanks.
Thanks. Thank you with that, Rosemary.
Thanks to us for organizing. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Rosemary.
See you next week, I guess.
See ya. Go ORDAO.
Go.
ORDAO.